why not some other senior Biden administration official?
Well, first of all, she's not a Biden administration official. She's the Speaker of the House, again, separate branch of government. So to be clear, she's not a Biden administration official. That being said, the United States routinely sends parliamentarians, congresspeople to Taiwan. It happens all the time. Frankly, not just the United States. There are many parliamentarians from Europe that have, and other Asian countries that have traveled to Taiwan. Why the Chinese are upset is because it's the Speaker of the House, and it hasn't happened since 1997.
Okay. Always good to talk to you. Many thanks indeed for being with us. Heino Klink there in Washington, D.C. High time. We got a weather forecast. I think we're at the midway point in this news hour. Here's Emmett.
Hello, we've got some really nasty weather pushing across southern parts of Australia at the moment. Deep area of low pressure swirling through. Very active weather system. This cold front that's rattling through the bight. It did bring some violent winds, destructive winds into Perth, southern parts of WA. Some of these areas seeing that as we go through Wednesday, come Thursday, it does sweep through. Next system starts to push in. Northeastern parts of Victoria could see some flooding. Southern parts, southeastern parts of New South Wales also seeing some very heavy rain as we make our way to the latter part of the week. A nasty week in thought here. As I said, warnings enforced from Perth to Melbourne. Ahead of that, it's largely dry for New Zealand, but wetter weather will make its way in here for the weekend. Got some wet weather too, pushing across the Korean Peninsula with some heavy downpours gradually pushing into a good part of Japan.
Everton, many thanks. Still to come here on the news now as both sides mourn their dead. Protesters in the Democratic Republic of Congo say they'll keep up the pressure on UN peacekeepers to leave. The US government announces $1 billion aid package for states. Hello again, Adrian Finnegan here in Doha with the news now from Al Jazeera. The headlines: the United States says that it's killed the leader of Al-Qaeda in a drone strike in Afghanistan's capital, Kabul. President Joe Biden says that intelligence officials tracked Ayman al-Zawahiri to a home in the center of the city. There are reports that influential Iraqi Shia leader Muqtada al-Sadr has told his supporters to withdraw from the parliament building in Baghdad. They took over the building on Saturday and have occupied it since. And US House Speaker Nancy Pelosi has left Malaysia. Online flight trackers showing a military plane which carried her there is now heading towards Taiwan. Beijing says the US will pay the price if Pelosi visits the self-governed island. A funeral has been held for a Palestinian teenager in Jenin in the occupied West Bank. 17-year-old Dirar Kafrini was killed on Monday following violence with Israeli forces. There have been near daily raids across the occupied West Bank in recent weeks. Let's take you live now to Ramallah. Al Jazeera's Nida Ibrahim is there. Just run us through what exactly happened overnight, Nida.
The cemetery of Jenin has been seeing a lot of funerals lately, the latest of which was for the 17-year-old Dirar Kafrini. And of the 80 Palestinians killed by Israeli forces since the beginning of the year, a third of them were killed in Jenin, including our beloved colleague Shireen Abu Akleh. All in all, the Israeli forces face a lot of attention in Jenin because there are estimates of around dozens, in the lower hundreds even, of armed Palestinian men who often confront with Israeli forces coming into Jenin. This is the case yesterday, and Dirar has been shot in the head. Now, it's not always that the Israeli forces manages to get inside the refugee camp itself. This time it did, and the Israeli forces arrested the senior Islamic Jihad leader, Bassam al-Sa'di. Now, we know that Israel considers this a victory, but for Palestinians, they say that Sheikh Bassam has been living his life